Tonight I'm with Chance Pond, and I'm really excited to talk about the entertainment industry with him, hear his story, his input from accomplished entertainers to people that are maybe just starting out in the industry and everything in between. Chance, thanks a lot for coming in.
Sure, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So where I'd want to start is that I understand that you have an amazing background, and you didn't start in the entertainment. You didn't set out, and that wasn't your original journey. You kind of had a big changing experience, and it led you into that. But I want to hear about that. So if you could kind of start and just tell us about this background.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, growing up, I was born in Taiwan, and growing up in a real poor family, and we had to kill chickens to if we want to eat dinner at night. If we had to catch fish if we want to eat, and that type of all the way from that part end of the spectrum all the way until until the point where I'm, living in South Barrington, high school and things like that, growing up in Illinois. And, I came over here at a young age and, a little bit wild, lived in New York for a little bit and always been an artist, did a lot of drawing, paintings and, things like that in school. Majored in graphic design when I went down to Parkland College and U of I in Champaign. Yeah. And, thought that was kind of my thing, but we had a family business. My parents, they're in the international logistics and transportation business.
Okay. Situated here in the U.S.
Yes.
Okay.
In Chicago.
Yeah.
And I hated all the paperwork. I did the whole child labor thing.
Sure.
I was there when I was 12 years old, working and shredding paper.
So you weren't going to wear a tie. There was no tie going.
Yeah, exactly. So just kind of learned from ground zero all the way up.
Yeah.
Did warehousing, things like that, and I hated the paperwork. I saw all these stacks of paper, and that's back in the late 80s where everything was copied and everything you'll see files everywhere.
Were your parents kind of grooming you for the business, and was that kind of your little bit, I don't want to say your destiny, but maybe your trajectory?
Yeah, they really wanted me to follow in their footsteps, and I was kind of forced into that a little bit, I think, for myself. Okay. I had kids when I was young, so decided in college, hey, it's time to work, it's time to support the family and things like that. And so I just stepped into the logistics business. And
okay, it was probably at the time might have been a logical thought process or logical step. You're like, I have to be responsible in my life. And the family pressure, the family idea of following that path. Yeah. So how long did you do? How long were you in that industry for?
Full time, I was in there for about almost 20 years.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
okay.
So knew the business quite a bit. I had offices over in China. Did a lot of traveling overseas, and so I was in the Far East a lot, as you can imagine, and did a lot of traveling down south and Argentina and Brazil, Panama, and things like that. So
it was
it was pretty cool. And once I started traveling, my eyes started to open up a lot more, and open up my whole mind on this whole international thing. And
see, I love that. Anybody who travels, it does break open something in your mind, and you're like, there's more here. There's a bigger picture.
It's just huge. There's a much bigger picture, and then just, I love learning cultures, and learning different cultures and different people, meeting different people. And the people that I have, met throughout the years have just been, such a big influence and impact in my life and to where I'm at today. So, and so and that's kind of where I was at. So,
do you have a knack for languages too? Are you able to?
I do. I can speak. I can speak a few languages. Mandarin is what I'm fluent in, and that was my first language. But I can speak a little bit of everything. Okay. I guess you got to.
See, that's helpful. I like to ask if somebody's a world traveler, if they're well adept at languages. I'm surface level. I can do the greetings a lot of times, but. You gotta dig in it, and I feel like you gotta be somewhere at least. Yeah, you do have to immerse yourself
3 or 4 or 5 times before you really get a grasp on
absolutely
how they communicate. So
so then during this process, was there one key point that changed directions, or was it a gradual kind of, you just started seeing like, maybe there's something else I want to do? Did you get a little bit of a
it's kind of a funny story, I guess. I mean, so I was married at a young age, had kids at a young age, and so around when I was 27, 28, I got separated and got divorced. Okay. And throughout all the years of my 20s, I missed a lot, as you can imagine, being the dad and working, coming home, being doing all the family stuff, and so I didn't really have much time to really explore for myself and find out who I am as a person.
Yeah.
And so when the whole separation thing happened, I just kind of took advantage of that and decided to go out and venture out. Started coming downtown a lot more and, seeing what the scene was like out here and just kind of putting myself out there and seeing what the world can really offer me. And I think that really started opening my eyes. And that's when I started doing nightlife promotions out here in Chicago. So I kind of got in that scene as soon as that happened, and I was fortunate enough to work with some great people, and we were
did
very
you get
successful.
a taste of the entertainment at that point, or was it more like event oriented?
More events oriented.
Sure.
Organized a lot of events, did post parties for a lot of different athletes, international DJs, local DJs, bands, things like that. So it opened my eyes and really exposed me to the whole music scene, which I always had a huge interest in anyway.
Yeah.
But to be able to be there on the front step, it was a whole new different world for me. So and I loved it and I absorbed it. I caught it and
I bet you got a
wanted to
ton
run
of
with it.
insights from these people, like these especially probably the DJs. They're just fascinating. Of course, the sports figures, it's amazing, but I would imagine some of the DJs too are pretty interesting. There's probably some interesting characters out there.
They are. They travel the world. They've met a whole bunch of different crowds and demographics, and different type of fans, all over the world. So they're already very in tune with the whole international side and the whole cultural side, and that just I think drew me even more in. And I just had a huge fascination with the whole business. And
right, were you still doing the logistics?
Still doing logistics.
Okay.
Yep.
So that was the day job, and
Yep.
Nice.
Yep. And then my head started turning and thinking that there's other things out there, and that's kind of where how things kind of started.
When did you kind of decide like this is my path? This is
I had really gotten serious with it. I started going out to Vegas, and I was doing a lot of different events out there as well. Went overseas in China, did events out there, and that really, I think that really at that point got me really, really focused and involved in it. And there was a point where I was putting together some tours for some really big U.S. artists, and at a certain point, and then right when we were about to kick off the tours, things happened to me on a health situation, and I was traveling a lot at that time as well over in South America, and I had a near-death experience that kind of shifted everything that I was trying to accomplish, and set me back. But at the same time, through that whole experience, it widened my eyes even more.
Sure.
And just gave me that much more curiosity, that much more drive, and that much more push.
So were you knocked out then from a health perspective?
Yeah.
How long were you kind of down and out?
I was in a coma for 2 weeks.
A coma?
Yeah. So I was in an induced coma for 2 weeks. I was traveling around in Brazil, had eaten something, and
so it was put into a medical coma?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
In Brazil?
No, I was in Brazil
Okay.
For business for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Got an emergency call, had to fly over to Argentina for another 2 weeks, but I started feeling something was going on.
Sure.
And in Brazil, and then from Argentina came back to Chicago for a night. Flew out to Vegas the next day for.
So you just
overnight.
kept going. You just were off, and you knew something was wrong, but
yep, just kept going. And
did you kind of crash? I mean, at some point,
I came back after I came back from Vegas. I was here in Chicago for a night, and I woke up the next day. It started a little bit in Vegas. I was feeling, some chest spasm, a little chest, some chest spasms, in the sternum and things like that. And so just something I never felt before. When I came home, I was here for one night. I woke up the next day to that. And, by the afternoon, I knew something was really wrong and went in and went into the ER. And, I don't know if, I think at that time too, maybe there's just not a lot of information, not a lot of education about the pancreas. And so, gave me some painkillers, antibiotics, sent me home.
Wow.
And that happened about 3 times before I finally went to the doctor, and he was like, "Listen, we should do a couple of different procedures to further, do some further testing."
So these successions, were they relatively close in timing, or was this a reoccurring?
In about a month and a half. Yep, it was about a month.
So
and
this
a half.
was a drawn out type period.
Yeah.
All right.
So after that, went in and had some more testings done. Went in to do some procedures and was expecting to come out the same day. And next thing you know, I wake up and I see one of my best friends sitting next to the bed with me, and I'm sitting there wondering what the hell are you doing here? I came here by myself, and I said, but I'm ready to go. Let's go home. And he's like, I don't know what to tell you, but you've been out for 2 weeks.
Oh my gosh! And
this was December 19th, 2013, and went in and I didn't wake up until after the New Year.
Oh my goodness!
So I missed Christmas and New Year's with my kids and family and friends, and so it just happened so quick. And next thing you know, I woke up and I'm in the hospital and I'm not going anywhere for a while. So.
Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
So it just completely black to black, just
exactly, out. just out, and waking up. Yeah. I found out that I had a 20% chance of living before my first surgery.
God, I can't even imagine. So what your family was going through? Everybody was probably just losing it.
Going pretty crazy. As you can imagine. So my friends and I just got the best friends in the world. So these guys really just helped out and came out for me and was there for me. When I was out, and was there for my family and my kids when I was out. And so
how much longer after you came to did you have to stay in the hospital much longer? Or were you able to kind of
I think first and foremost, I mean, fitness has always been a big thing in my life, and for all the people out there, get your fitness on, because it's definitely what saved my life.
Okay.
I fully believe that if I was not so active and didn't have fitness in my life, I would have died.
Right.
So going through all that and waking up and just knowing that I had to go through 3 major surgeries before I was stabilized, and technically I died 3 times, and they had to bring me back 3 times. That was a huge deal, but having the fitness aspect of things in my life, I was able to fortunately recover pretty quick from my condition.
Yeah.
I was a 1 in a million patient that came in as badly as I did and actually lived and survived to tell the story.
Right.
So it's pretty, I'm
those
guy.
odds, you're kind of a medical miracle at that point.
Yeah. I'm a lucky guy. Very lucky, a very blessed guy to be here. And I think what is the difference with my story also is the fact that I remember where I was at.
Yeah.
I remember where I was at when I was out. I did a lot of research. As you can imagine, I'm bedridden and have a lot of time to think. Did a lot of research about NDEs, near-death experiences, and read up on a lot of things about DMT in the brain and chemical releases after you die and that kind of sorts, and realized that that there's basically proof of heaven. There's another place out there that you go once you pass that it reflects basically all your passions and what you love in life. Everything that I loved and passionate about in life was there. I'm huge into hospitality, and I was in this huge hotel, this whole high-tech, incredible hotel, and with a lake in the back, with a roller coaster on the lake. It was really, really descriptive and kind of things that you would see out of a storybook, right? But at the same time, with a lot of scientific research and things that have happened to doctors and surgeons, neurosurgeons in particular in the world, that had kind of the same situations and experiences that I have, when they come out of it, they're saying they have bacterias at that time, or it was killing that part of the brain that carried DMT, that releases the hallucinations in your brain, and that's why people hallucinate before you pass. When that part of it is not working because that bacteria specifically killed that portion of his brain during that time, and he was still able to have these type of visuals and hallucinations.
Right.
That was an expression to him as a doctor, as a surgeon, as a person who believes in science and not religion.
Yep.
It turned his perspective on things. And so for me to vividly remember everything that went on with me during the time that I was gone was something. So
when you came to, then did these memories? Because it's fair to call them memories then at that point, because you're actually imprinted in your mind So did those come to you over the course of those following weeks, or was it immediate when you woke up?
It was immediate when I woke up.
You
I
really
was
knew
almost,
where you...
Yeah.
Were you kind of
like
disoriented? Like, why am I here?
Yeah.
I knew where I was.
Yeah. Yeah. I woke up. I remember feeling that, I'm asking myself, I'm asking people around me, like, why am I here? Because I was happy where I was at. I was happy where I was at. I was loved where I was at. I was, everything that basically I think, us as human beings all wish to see or wish to feel, and what we crave in our daily lives sometimes, that extra love from certain people or whatever the case may be, or significant others and family.
Was there
that's all the things that I
went through. What about kind of that time and space, the idea of there's just kind of no time and no space? So when you were in this place, there was probably no delineations of time perspective.
Right. Time was not a factor.
Yeah.
The only time that I was able to differentiate when it was daytime or nighttime was when it was bright out or when it was dark out. Awesome. Otherwise, time didn't exist where I was at. So, it's I try to explain this, and a lot of people try to dig into my head a little bit and try to get more detailed.
I can't imagine.
But it's so hard to explain.
Because there is a voice inside of us all that doesn't speak words. Right. And to articulate that and what that experience was like, I imagine it is hard to form words around it.
Sure.
And capture the moment. Honestly, you did, though. I mean, that's an amazing, from the perspective that I'm hearing, it's an absolute amazing story.
It's a lot more detailed than that.
I'm sure. So I guess to this day too, I mean, is that still pretty impactful to you?
It is. It is. It influences me every day. It gives me a hard reminder. I'm not necessarily the easiest to influence. I'm a little bit stubborn in my own sense, but
sure.
It really humbles me. Yeah. And it gives me a different perspective on life. It makes me appreciate a lot more things than what I would have before.
Yeah.
And also I feel that it's given me an opportunity to really be able to reach out and talk to people and give people a certain education and just a certain experience. Share a certain experience of mine that people can grab onto. I was talking to one of my close friends, business partners for a long time recently. He's from Toronto, and he came down, and I hadn't seen him for probably about a year and a half since then. And he was telling me that his mother had recently passed away, and he was going through his own questioning, I guess,
Sure.
when someone close to you like that passes away so suddenly. And he just had a lot of questions himself. And for me, in all these years, I have not shared with him what happened with me.
Right.
He did come into the hospital for the 30 days that I was there, and he was visiting me, 5-6 times, throughout that month. But we never talked about my experiences. And when we had met finally over in Chicago this past year, I finally told him.
Yeah.
And what went from what was supposed to be an hour-long dinner with some other business partners turned out to be a 4-hour dinner, just with the story. And and he told me after the fact that how it gave him some sort of peace with what happened to his mother.
Yes.
So I feel that if my story can help others like that,
absolutely, I think it does. I think I believe that there's a part. Many times people try to go back to that sense of articulating or put logical form around it. Maybe that's where you were at before this experience.
Right.
And then be able to understand what you went through. To put those together is amazing. And actually, I know many people, everybody loses somebody along the way, and I think we kind of question that. Is there something beyond this? Is there something beyond this body? Something beyond this spirit?
I was scared of it. I was scared of it, right? I think most people are just absolutely terrified of the fact of death and what happens afterwards, right? And so for me, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm still scared as hell of death, but at the same time,
but I think that there's a comfort in it too, because there's an inevitability.
Yeah.
There's that idea, even the modern Stoicism, that there's the thought process that we are all dying, and so there's a sense that you live.
You gotta
live.
We
living?
You gotta live. You gotta live, and with what you've got, you got to just live it the best that you can, and do the best you can at it, and just appreciate every day as it goes by.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, that's very inspiring, because there's so many people that kind of go on and programmed by what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And I even think about where you were at with the logistics company. You could have easily gone and done that the rest of your life.
Sure.
You know, that could have been 50, 60 years of
it was kind of my plan a little bit.
I'm sure. There was probably a comfort in that too.
Yeah.
So I to take it to that and to live each day probably even gives that level of courage to know that I'm on the right path because I'm living a path. When I say a passion, or I'm living the direction and that journey that I choose.
Yeah.
Too.
Right.
So, which is cool that you had actually already started out on a path that you love. Yeah. In that entertainment industry, but it being able to kind of bring joy. Do you think there's kind of even a tie in there? Was there kind of almost a revelation point when you were going through this? You're like, I do see the connection point of where I've been, what I kind of being traveling on, and then to take it to the place where you just want to be within.
Yeah, I mean, I think life really, I think the universe and God, I think whatever it is, the higher beings out there, I think, they really, they mapped out my life here, and they gave me choices, they gave me opportunities, and I feel that everything that has happened to me has brought me and taught me to be where I needed to be at this point. And
Absolutely.
so after I went through that whole situation with the hospital and recovery and things like that, and I have a brother. I have a younger brother.
Yeah.
He's 26 years old. So I'm 39. He's 26. So we've got about a 13-year difference.
Sure.
So the mentality is different. He's into different things. I'm into different things. But there was a period of time where we kind of missed out with spending more time with each other. For me to understand and to get to know him as he's growing up and as he's maturing and growing into a man. And so. When that happened, one of the biggest things that I made a priority for myself was to make sure that I get back that quality time with my brother.
Yeah.
And to really get to know him, because he's always been my number one in my life.
Yeah.
For since he was born. So, and it was basically him and I. My parents were working, my dad was traveling a lot, so it was just me and my brother. And so, I just made a huge point for me to spend as much time with him, even if that meant for me to kind of go back and go back on my years and kind of, explore it a little bit.
Kind of reconnect that. That's, go back to the roots of where you kind of came from, but then from a different perspective now.
Yeah.
From that growth perspective that, there's a light that shined in that kind of an enlightenment path, that perspective. That's amazing. And I do believe firmly that, wholeheartedly that the universe has got our back, and everything is kind of divinely where it should be, and we meet the right people that we should.
Absolutely.
And even when we meet perceivably somebody or something, have a situation that seems like it's not the right thing, it could just be a nudge in that direction that we're supposed to head.
I think you got to go through that. You got to go through it. You got to meet the good just like the bad ones. And you got to know some hurt just as you got to experience the good. And that really will be able to help you dictate where you want to go and where you want to take your life.
Yeah, some of the contrast, because you don't know what great is.
Exactly.
If you didn't have some bad from the perspective point.
Right.
Oh man. Okay. I absolutely, that's amazing. I really appreciate you sharing that. That's actually a very personal story. So that's a very, very, that's great to share. So from there, it's even a little tough. It's like, I want to stay in that story so much because I felt comfortable just by you telling me, the place you were at, but we'll kind of venture on from there because I want to actually hear, what you're doing today and see what that pinnacle point, led you to.
Sure.
So from that point, springboarding into, let's just call it, the entertainment industry as a whole. So I'm going to actually detract just a little bit from that too, but it was that I'm sure you're able to connect with people a lot quicker, more direct, and on a deeper level now too.
Yeah, I feel that, and it's interesting because I think one of the main differences, at least that happened to me, mentally
Yeah.
after going through something like this. As you can imagine, I mean, something like this can break a person down.
Yeah.
Tremendously. And I was at a point where, it brought me down and it humbled me very much, and to a point where, I almost felt like I lost a lot of confidence in myself. Here I was in my 20s, traveling the world, sales manager, international sales manager. I was doing a whole lot of things and accomplishing a lot of things, getting in front of and meeting a lot of people, high important people, I guess, and, in business for our business. And to go from that to being able to having to learn how to walk again. To learning having to
what was that post like, that physical therapy?
It was rough.
Course?
It was rough.
Was it? So there truly was a physical response.
Definitely.
Your body shut down from that point.
Definitely.
Okay.
And lost some muscle memory, you're in a coma, right? And so there was just a point in time where, I had to do a lot of rehabilitation. And thankfully, again, I did a lot of fitness and bodybuilding, that kind of stuff, in the past. And so I just kind of took my knowledge of that and applied that with what I had to do in recovery. Doctors were thinking that I had to go to an inpatient recovery place for at least a month. And, that kind of drives me crazy, a little bit.
Absolutely. Well, it was probably a big driver too. And the fact that you have past of being physical, working out regularly, probably did help really accelerate the recovery process.
Right.
Yeah.
So I worked out, did a lot of stuff in bed, in the hospital bed, and just did a lot of stuff, work with, bands and things like that. And after a while, started learning how to get out of bed. Yeah. Being able to learn how to walk.
How long before you kind of felt 100%?
I mean, it took a solid, even after I got out of the hospital, I was still on bed rest for probably about a good solid 3-4 months before I was.
That is a long time.
And I wasn't able to carry anything more than doctor's orders. I couldn't carry anything more than, 5 to 10 pounds at a time. Yeah. It was to that point. So, a lot of rehabilitation, but I got there. Fortunately, I was able to pull out of it and got stronger, got better, and just been building myself back ever since. So, and that's when I started, kind of going through the experiences with my brother, and trying to, catch up with the times the times lost that him and I had. Yeah. And I started going to music festivals. He's a big musical festival guy. Yeah. He's the drummer himself, so he's an artist as well. So, so I started going to these music festivals with them and really capturing, and getting to know a lot of these different artists, new artists started coming out and kind of getting in tune with the younger generations.
I got a question then too. Cool. After this NDA, because you're a music fan, did music sound better? Did it sound deeper? Did you get more connection points in that regard? Or was it more like the flowers smell sweeter and the world's brighter, or anything, any perspective change too on that?
I think it was a little bit of everything. Yeah. I think that there are certain points where, I had a different appreciation for just life in general. Sure. But then another factor, I think that, most of my life I was a big hip hop guy. Mm-hmm. Hip hop, R&B, that was, usually my genre. And so listen to rock and I loved all that, but, hip hop was always my go-to. And going to these music festivals and getting to listen to a lot of different type of DJs and their styles, and that really, I think, opened up and really got me interested into the music scene. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really how everything started from what I'm doing now. Yeah. So. Okay. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about that then.
Let's do that. Let's talk about, with what you're doing now. As far, do you kind of represent, here, let's pause really quick. I'm going to pause really fast. So I thank you for sharing that. That's amazing. I do this because then I know where to cut it really quick. And I almost feel like cheapened if I jump into the work, the what you're doing now. But are you comfortable with that? Or is there anything else you want to share in that regards? That's awesome with the NDA, because I could literally talk about God, universe, and energy all day long too.
It's a pretty crazy topic, right?
I love it. I absolutely do. Do a ton of self work, and I love big big believer in the universe and bigger experiences.
It's our biggest questions.
Yeah, it is. So like, there is that arena, or we can kind of talk about some of the music too, to get to have a nice cut of that too.
I'm here to freelance.
Yeah,
man.
I want to be highly effective for you. So I would take your lead on that. If you want to jump in that, we'll form some stuff around that. No problem.
I mean, I think that as far as the NDEs go and my experience, I mean, I'm writing. I want to put together a book. I want to write a book about it. I want to, through my experiences, and
let's touch on that a little bit.
Vividly go through that, and then we could go through.
Let's do a little bit of that.
Stuff.
Let's do a little of that, and then we'll shift over to the music scene. Okay, and then we'll make it really kind of about business, and maybe I might even break those two segments into two different sections or something, if that's cool.
All right, yeah.
Because I really like this as its own standalone thing.
It's going to segment in its own. I mean, it's
absolutely.
It's a great topic.
Absolutely. So let's stay in the NDA and stuff, and I'll ask you some stuff forming around that and stuff.
NDE.
NDE. Okay.
NDE. Near death experiences.
Okay. Sorry. Yes. Thank you. No worries. Thank you. Okay. Perfect. I'm trying to think of where we left off, but. From that perspective, because I'll probably clip back to
going back to me going to music festivals with my brother and
everything brighter, sweeter, more loving, connecting points with your family, your brother in particular, and I'm sure friends and all across the board, and you did share with me previously too that you were thinking of actually writing a book, and really kind of diving deeper into the NDEs and expanding on that knowledge. So, because you did say that you've done a lot of research into it, you've had your own experience. Is there a lot of information out there?
There is.
Yeah.
There is.
Okay.
There is, and and people have their own experiences with it.
Sure.
Some people say they have the whole out of body experience where they see their body, their body outside of
That's probably one of the more common ones you've heard. Like if you hear of people in the surgery room, they actually see. From an external view, they see the surgeons and all the nurses and everybody else, working on it. Mm-hmm. You'd hear that, and then coming back into that. But and to ask another question deeper on the medical side too, they said that it was 3 times that you actually flatlined.
Right.
So did they say from that perspective there would be was there any damage or?
Well, so what happened was after the first surgery was to cut me open. Mm-hmm. They had found out that I had a lot of inflammation all over my body from my pancreas. And so the first surgery was to get in there, cut me open, get in there, cut the dead inflammation out of my pancreas, and then also try to take as much of the live inflammation out of my body without taking too much out of it at one time. Mm-hmm. So, where my body would go into cardiac arrest and die anyway, right? Yeah. So their whole goal was to get as much inflammation out of my body without killing me.
Wow.
And so that was the first operation. And the second operation, they had to close me up. When they closed me up, they found out that I had a bacteria infection inside, where they had to reopen me up again. So that was the second operation. They had to clean my whole insides out with saline and move my organs around a little bit and all that mess, and leave me open for about 4 days, and then close me up, staple me up, and put all the tubes in place and everything. And, I got this huge scar, and it looks like I got shot a few times on the side of my stomach. But
I'm sure the medical file is just it's probably the old encyclopedia thick. It's man. And then as far as to kind of touch into that, potentially writing a book or doing more information on it, providing more information, giving back to the just the general public or that community that understands it.
Sure.
Have you spoken with a lot of other people that have also had NDEs, or?
I've spoken to some people that have the same experiences I had, and I think that the similarity between all the stories is that a lot of the key elements are really similar. Mm-hmm. Where they feel like they had to go through almost a processing. It's like going to jail. Have you ever been to jail? It's like you have to get processed and you have to do all that stuff. And don't ask me how I know, but but it's it's a process. And I don't know if you've ever seen this movie. It's with Robin Williams and Cuba Gooding Jr. It's What Dreams May Come.
Oh yeah, it's been a long time.
Movie.
Yeah.
It's been a while, since the movie came out. But I had never seen that movie until after I had gotten out of the hospital, recovered, and my best friend, my brother Albert Wayne, he was one of the guys that came to me. We traveled together. He was also my right hand guy in the logistics business. He was my partner in the logistics business, and we were traveling. I remember we were traveling from Reno, Nevada, back over here.
Yeah.
And he was telling me, he's like, "Hey, have you ever seen this movie?" Because at a point I was like really emotional.
Yeah.
And I've never been that emotional guy. And so for me to all of a sudden like randomly get emotional about certain things and certain things that are going on in my mind, it just made me feel that my mind was very sensitive to
Sure.
a lot of energy, and to a lot of things that were just coming in. And so and I didn't know what was going on. And so I would confide with him, and he would say, he told me one time, he's like, "Have you ever checked out this movie? You should check out this movie, man, because a lot of this stuff that you're telling me is stuff that sounds kind of similar. Check it out and let me know if that's something that's, if that's, if it matches up a little bit."
Yeah, because it probably.
The story does.
Yeah,
the story does.
I was going to say is if you're able to feel and be influenced by the energy, that there might be some type of empathic, connection there too.
Right.
That you're easily susceptible to the surrounding. And then, did you kind of institute or start any habits as far as like meditation or?
I've had to.
Yeah.
I've had to. It's really weird because when your mind is that open, and when your mind is that susceptible to things coming in, and it's really difficult to describe, but there's just feelings that I get that I don't know where it comes from. I don't know how they came about. It's not even that I was thinking about it or whatever, but it would just naturally come. And I can feel what another person's feeling. I can feel the pain that they're feeling. I can feel the happiness that they're feeling. And it was a really weird, kind of an experience to accept. And so, there's just, it's the whole experience is just, it's been, even to this day, I still get the same type of feelings and same type of effects. And now I know I've learned a little bit more on how to manage it a little bit better and know how to.
Yeah, I'm sure you have to, especially if you're in being, say, in the entertainment industry, you're probably in rooms with a lot of people. It's a lot of influence. There's a lot of different emotions, a lot of different energies going on.
A lot of egos, a lot of everything.
Sure, for that'd be too much to absorb. Yeah. So I would imagine that's why I brought up. That's why I asked you about meditation, because I would imagine you have to.
Yep.
To support
sleep
that.
At night, just to sleep at night. So and it goes into a lot of the whole mental health stuff. So I'm very aware of all that, and I'm a big supporter of institutions or people that want to help with people with mental health issues. And me personally, myself, I've gone through that same stuff, even till today, so it's an ongoing battle, but,
So what's your time frame on writing, you think?
I would like to get it. I would like to get it done this year.
Okay.
I would like to get it done this year. It's been a few years. It's been a number of years now, in the works. So I think this is the year.
Nice. I love that. Yeah. Are you? Is some of the foundation of the book going to be awareness, or is it going to be some inspiration? A little bit of education.
I'm going to go all in with it.
Okay.
I'm going to go all in. I'm going to describe. I'm going to go into detail of what happened.
Yeah.
Exactly. How it started, from where I was to how I felt, to who I saw when I was there, all the way to the point to the post operations and post coma. All the way up to how I had to prepare myself mentally, how I had to fight through a lot of things mentally to recover, to get back to myself. And not only that, but put myself in a better place where I can also help others do the same thing.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest focal point for me.
Yeah. I would imagine too that with the NDEs, there's to be that support for somebody else that has a similar experience.
It's gratifying. It's gratifying. It makes
be able
me
to kind
feel
of
good.
give back in that sense.
Exactly. I felt that I was given a huge second chance to be in this world and to be here for my kids and my family and friends and for all the people that have supported me throughout all the years and have been there for me. And you realize also when you're at your weakest point that who's really there for you, right?
Sure.
And it's also surprising and also great to know how much I've influenced others over the years,
right?
For them to feel that they had a need to be there for me as well. So
I can tell that you have that gratitude. You carry that with you. That's a wonderful, beautiful thing.
You gotta love those people.
Yeah. So cool, man. I really appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I'm looking forward to the book.
Oh, thank you.
So,
definitely.
I'll have you back on after the book.
I'll be back on anytime.
That'd be great.
Yeah, you let me know.
So cool. I'll just pause here.
Okay.
And then, so we'll kind of probably end that segment in that.
Cool.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't want to segue from that into a work environment. That's a different, its own beautiful thing. Man.
Yeah.
So
cool.
Even that was that was everything. So I'll touch on it because I also want to make sure that I do. Since I have you here, we'll touch on the music and stuff, just because I know, art's involved in that too.
Yeah.
So you get everybody gets some nice cross promotion.
Sure.
And let me just stretch for a sec. Sorry.
You're good, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm real flexible, man. It's
no,
cool.
This is fun.
Man.
You're absolutely a great guest. I'm excited about this. This was cool. So. Get a different mix of some people are technical and stuff like that.
I think this is awesome. You're doing something awesome right now, man.
Yeah,
this is really cool.
Definitely. I know we're still kind of in between sets here. I was just going to say is the foundation of my channel is really more into this, more of an inspiration. Being a bit more inspiring.
Yeah.
But driven by useful knowledge, skill sets, insights. That's really where the inspiration for the channel came from for me. And how to convey that, how to communicate that, and through stories, through other people's experiences, I could sit here and talk about myself all day, but it's not gonna be as impactful but if I'm able to have other people here to share that in.
Sure.
So, and I might actually use that.
Yeah.
That's why I kind of went with it for a second.
Go for it, man. So. Yeah.
All right. What I'll do is let's just do the thing too. Is I might just do a dummy intro again as a placeholder, and then we'll talk because I really didn't get a chance to understand your total business model and everything else. So but it's pretty much like agency work, representation and stuff.
It's basically,
so maybe what I'll do is I'll ask you your involvement in the entertainment industry, and maybe you could put some form around it.
Sure,
that's cool. Yeah. So. All right. All right. So I have Chance Pond. Let me turn one time. So I'm really excited to have Chance Pond here talk about his involvement in the entertainment industry. I have so many questions on this. It's not a field that I'm in currently or have been in, so I'm looking forward to understanding a bit more and get a little more insight into it. So thanks for coming.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. So, if you could, from my understanding is that you've had involvement with Grammy winners, from people new to the industry, and everything in between, and just entertainment in general, video, music, and live entertainment probably, and large event structuring. So, if you could put a little bit of form, what you and your group does.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. My group now is Intrinsic Group Entertainment. Syntricate, that's SYNTRICATE. My business partners, Arthur and some of the other guys that we brought on board here, some of the artists that have come along with us on this ride. What we do is we provide a platform in a space where we offer various different artists, upcoming artists, or artists that are already developed and just want to expand on their career. We give them an open space where we can offer not only studio time, we can offer the producers, we can offer the engineers. Basically, we can offer every added value that this artist needs
Okay.
and we customize it for that particular artist.
Yeah.
As a big as a sales guy, I've been in the business for a long time, and in the management, that every employee, every salesperson is different. Every employee is different.
Yeah.
You got to train them differently. You have to expose them in a different way. You have to even deal with them in different ways. And knowing and I guess having that skill set, really prepared me to be able to relate to a lot of artists in their own way.
Yeah.
And to be able to, kind of figure out what would be the best for this artist owner. I'm not a guy that takes one cookie sheet type idea and apply that towards everybody that
I can imagine.
I like to customize it and make it really tailored for their specific purpose and what they specifically want to do. And that's what Intrinsic Group Entertainment does.
Oh, it's amazing. Because, that everybody's a fingerprint of sorts. Yeah. And there's no way to create a formulaic approach.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's so in a way too. What I'm kind of from understanding it is almost you're really taking consultative sense to it. And I would imagine, and I don't want to group artists. I'm sure there's many artists that have a very strong business approach to how they do it. But in that industry, I can imagine some artists maybe starting, they may not understand how to approach it, or even approach it in a business sense, that there is a way to start or expand or build on a brand.
Well, I think that the biggest focus for us is that a lot of independent artists right now, and as you see with social media, how it's giving a platform for more and more independent artists to be recognized. With that being said, it almost forces a lot of these artists to have to learn that business side.
Yeah.
And it's a great, at the same time, it's a great thing to learn the business side of things.
Yeah.
If you're an artist, but at the same time, for us, and as an artist myself, I know that when I can produce my best art, it was always me just focusing on my art.
Sure, yeah.
And,
I could see that.
And I have to get into the whole business side of things. And
I could see it detracting from the joy and the art and the inspiration.
It takes a lot of time and energy.
Yeah.
And a lot of business stuff, as we all know, it's a lot of bad as compared to good, right?
Yeah.
Like we got to go through a lot of failures to get to that.
Absolutely.
To get to that success story. And so I think that a lot of those failures, though, will bring a lot of artists down. Yeah. And so for us, our biggest thing was, let us work for you as the artist. Mm-hmm. Let us do the business side. Let us help you develop. Let us do what we got to do so that you just focus on your craft, on your creativity.
Yeah.
And you bring the best creative work that you can possibly give to the people, to the fans, to the audience. And that's the biggest thing.
Absolutely.
And I think that's really important for artists nowadays.
Yeah, I could see that. And in all honesty, you see that in cross industries everywhere. Yeah. There's a creative aspect of what we all do, and especially in sales too, there's a creative element. And then there's the business side. And depending on the industry, it's much more business driven. But I'll tell you, there's times when if I'm trying to be creative or look at something creatively on a deadline, it kind of diminishes. Is that I can only imagine from an artist who's either writing, producing, pumping out content, whatever that approach is or whatever they do, if they're singer, songwriter, the pressure would potentially kill some creativity in it. Yeah.
It does, and I think I've been hearing a lot of comedians nowadays, right, coming out and saying, "Hey, you know what? We're all broken little souls, right?" And we're all, and I'll tell you what, and it's funny, but it's not funny at the same time. I mean, because that's really realistic talk right there, and I think a lot of artists are just like comedians. They're artists as well. I mean, so in a really weird sense, they all relate, and so a lot of artists. They're also in the state of mind where they're battling a lot of things in their mind as well every single day. Yeah. And so and I've recognized that. I see that with a lot of different artists that I represent. And, they're all great and they're all creative in their own ways. But I think that the everyday struggles, the everyday stresses, are things that take away from their creativity. And I think that I'm a very firm believer that that's what causes a lot of potentially great artists to get held back.
Yeah.
And not be able to release their full potential.
Yeah, I could see that in a sense too, and maybe this is a silly way to look at it, but you're almost protecting you're protecting that environment. You're creating an environment where you can actually protect around them to do their best work.
Yeah, protect them from the crazy labels, protect them from all the crazy business sharks that are coming in and trying to take them in different directions that they may not want to take.
Yeah,
let us work for you.
I imagine there's a lot of distractions in that industry.
Huge.
A lot of people that maybe even predatory type of approaches that people will come into it. So
reptiles, they call them.
Yeah. From a new artist standpoint too, to navigate those waters, I'm sure there's no way to know who's authentic and who's not.
Yeah, you got to filter a lot of people.
Yeah, I bet. For sure. What about too, like if there's an artist that's really well established, accomplished, if they maybe want to shift their focus or maybe shift their kind of personal brand of sorts. Yeah. Does that happen often, or
what? Sometimes it does. Yeah. Sometimes, and I think it all depends. We'll get to meet with the artist and see where they're at, see where they've been to, and we'll do our homework and our Q&A, and we'll figure out where they're at and where they want to be. And I think that one of the other huge added value that Syndicate brings to the table is that we provide an international element to the table. We're able to form and organize tours overseas for them as well. Literally we're able to create everything in-house for artists. If you were an artist doing random performances on the street, you see a lot of these guys out here imagine if you were one of those artists and you can go to one place and be able to and they were able to fulfill every aspect of developing you as in your career, in your music career.
Yeah. Do you ever see some artists too have stagnation points that you guys have to work through and kind of restructure a little bit?
Yeah. I think it's like life, right? It's a lifestyle. When you just be an artist, it's a lifestyle just as well. And just like with any lifestyles, you have your ups and downs.
Yep.
And I think that, some of these artists, you've seen them in the TMZs and all the tailways, you go through your ups and downs, you go through certain things in your life that brings you down a little bit. And, you got to pick yourself up. And sometimes, people don't want to mess with you.
Some of those.
You got to find somebody that can believe in you.
Yeah. And I would imagine really some of those when the TMZs and, maybe it's damage control at that point, and maybe the restructuring is about a necessity.
Right.
That's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then as far as I'd like to understand a little bit more about this kind of events. Small event, big venues. Does it make sense? Is there again too? There's no cookie cutter approach, but are there times where they're at an advantage of booking smaller events and smaller shows?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Depends what
the approach.
It depends on the branding, the marketing aspect of it. Depends on the artist itself. We really analyze, what the artists do and what they've accomplished so far and where they need to improve on, what type, if they need more exposure in certain markets to help their exposure here. There's a lot of different factors that go along with that. But I think that's where we're different. We really take the time to evaluate those factors.
Right.
And how do we put those additional added values into those places and to really at the end to benefit the artist. And bottom line is, the artist grows, we grow.
Absolutely.
Right. So and that's our mentality.
So you're obviously heavily vested in to their success.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
And what about too, just so I can understand as far as a lot of people give away, I don't want to say give away music, but just put out all their music on social media. And how does some of that stuff play into?
Copyrights.
Yeah.
Copyrights.
Okay.
You got to have your licensing done. You have to copyrights on your music, and that's
so you really do have to be cautious about that.
You have to be cautious about that.
Okay.
But I think that, at the end of the day, everybody still bites on people's music. Everybody does all that stuff. And so you can make the little slightest bit change of things and, call it your own song, your own beat, right? So at the end of the day, you can only protect yourself as much as you can. But I think as long as you have those in line, you've got some good people to represent you.
Yeah.
I think everything else will fall in line and speak for itself.
Yeah. And then, I was kind of thinking about it too from a creative aspect. Maybe there's artists that, I don't want to say going virtual more, from doing more video and producing more content from that way instead of being on the road and touring. I mean, is there any elements of that? I mean, I don't know if I'm onto something at all, or
no,
if that's
you're right, because I mean, I guess that's a lot of the question, right? And if, I think for many years, people are like, or artists are like, okay, well, this is the way. I think that's the challenge with some of the record labels, is because they come in and by all means, they've done what they're done.
There's a traditional approach.
There is a traditional approach, but at the same time, the world is changing. Right? Social media is changing. People are changing, and there's different ways that people are absorbing new ways of methods of doing things. Right. So I think that being caught up to the date and being updated with everything that's going on and where the trend is going, and I think that's a huge important factor
because you're managing
to keep growing.
You're managing that brand of sorts too, and I would never call it a product because it's somebody's art, but you're still managing that brand, and you have to have relevance in the industry. There's always new apps rolling out all the time, and you can't chase all of them. But I think there is things, there's things like TikTok and
TikTok is crazy.
Yeah,
I just started getting into it, but now I'm addicted to this stuff.
It's just kind of blown up.
I always thought it was a young, a young generation thing.
It really, and I think that obviously that's where it started. But once it grows, but then there's a foothold in there. So to have maybe an artist out there doing creative content on there. I don't know. I don't know if it detracts or if it adds, and I mean, I guess that's a call for the approach, but
I think it'll always help. I think it'll always help because I mean, you're reaching out to a demographics
that's true,
that has the time.
Yes.
to watch and stream all day long, right? If they're not doing their homework or if they're not in school. Sure. I mean, you got all the time in the world to do this stuff. And I think those are the people that you really want to reach out to. Yeah. And they're the upcoming generations, to come. So, if you can grab their attention.
Familiarity and you kind of plant in those marketplaces. So the recognition. Yeah, that's fascinating. So I mean, is there anything else you want to kind of add to what we were talking about from the agency perspective? Or
I think for most part, it started off, and this is kind of how we went from how I went from the event planning and organizing part of the business to the managing side of the business, is because a number of years back we had a group together, we had a team together, and we were actually planning a concert over at Soldier Field. And so, I mean, to that kind of scale. So I've done other things, like I said, with various different artists, in Vegas and Chicago, and also over in overseas in China in particular, from club shows to arena shows, and so. We had this opportunity with Soldier Field, and we wanted to do that. We planned everything out. It was kind of bad timing. That year was the year they had the Vegas shooting at the I forgot what country singer it was, Jason Aldean's concert, right? So
that was terrible.
Yeah, so a lot of things were going on that year, and even in Chicago, a lot of different shows, annual shows that were here, Spring Awakening. They've all had to change their venues, change their locations because of that, and so we were one of the shows that also got kind of pushed back and almost shut down a little bit, and so. My experience through that was I hated it. What I realized after the fact is that I hated being on the opposite side of the table of the artists.
Yeah.
And I realized during that time that I was much more wanting to be a part of the side of the artist as opposed to negotiating with them. And the managers and the booking agencies and things like that. And I just felt that I would bring a much better value if I represented the artist. And there's an artist of mine, Dre, that has been in Chicago for quite some time. He's been doing music for a long time, and just was not aligned with the right people.
Sure.
That was able to really help him with his career.
I can imagine that makes a big difference.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
Because if you were
got
to
all
try
the resources in the world, but if you don't have the right people to kind of represent you in the right way, then
or if you're trying to go at it on your own. You'd be completely focused on that, because I can't imagine the logistics that go into some of those events with even all the equipment, coordination.
It's a hassle.
Yeah,
it's a whole nother beast.
And I'm sure a lot of the local entities, they probably have a lot of good vendor sources, but still, I would imagine there's a huge coordination.
A lot of factors involved,
and all the promoting to it as well.
You got a lot of stuff on your plate when you're organizing shows like that, you know.
Yeah.
And so, and if I figure, you know what, if we can represent the artists and we can do our own tours and we can do our own shows,
right?
You know, again, you know, we have control of what we want to do. The artists, you know, has an option to do what they want to do and who they want to collaborate with and who they want to perform with. And, you know, I think, you know, again, we provide that extra added value, customized added value to our clients and to our artists.
Yeah, I definitely see it. And that was kind of why I was asking too about from a venue standpoint, if it made sense if some artists really do want that more intimate vibe. That's why they like the smaller shows, and because they're really part of, you know, I've seen a lot of great shows over time, and the big productions are amazing, but some of the small shows are just outstanding.
Intimate.
You know,
a lot more intimate,
and you can tell that the musician really feels they're really into it. You know, and not just playing the same song for the 200th time or something.
Right.
You know, so
I mean, they want to interact. You know, they want to interact with the audience. You know, and you know, it's crazy because you go to a lot of these huge shows and they're very limited to the type of interaction that they can have, right? You know, you got to look at their safety, you got to look at all these different variables that can cause, you know, harm or you know, issues with security, you know, for the artist itself. But so, you know,
I'm sure the whole environment's very curated at that point. Even probably the performance, I would imagine, to some degree.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's absolutely fascinating. I really appreciate you sharing that. And if anybody wants to kind of consult with you, or what's the best way to get a hold of you guys?
Reach us out. You know, check us out, www.centricatgroupentertainment.com. You know, email us. You know, our contact information are all on there. So feel free to reach out to us, to our team. And we've got a great team on staff, you know, and we've got a lot of great things coming up. So we look forward to it.
That's awesome. Yeah. Thanks again, Chance. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Cool. Cut. I love it. That was awesome, man.
Awesome,
man.
Thank you, dude.
I love it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, very cool. I appreciate, you know, with both of them, I think that's